Welcome, everybody. Today's Saturday with Sheehan is on January 13th, 2018. And I am Kosta. I'm your host from the etletstalk.com, which I founded and which I facilitate. I want to welcome Danny and all the people who have been joining on this webinar, plus all the people who are going to subsequently be hearing our archived version of this. I want to encourage everyone to share the link to this webinar once we post it, and I will send out an announcement, as I always do, to our community. Share it far and wide, because these conversations with our friend and colleague Danny Sheehan are always enlightening, really educational, and very much a call to action to all of us to do something about the myriad of things that we talk about here that really need our attention. So having said all that, I want to do a little commercial for ET Let's Talk real fast. If you're not already a member, we have the ability for you to join as a free member. We have 11,000 people in more than 100 countries and actually growing every day. I may need to update that 11,000 number at some point. But lots of people all over the world. We teach folks to do their own interactive CE5 contact with our ET friends. And we encourage people who come into the community to talk with each other, to teach and learn, and share their experiences, because it's a safe place where we're doing this ET contact. It's the wave of the future. Having said all that, I want to welcome Danny here. Hello, Danny.
Hey, Kosta. How is everybody today?
I'm sure they're fine, and I know they keep coming back, so they're looking forward to your updates and to the questions that they've been sending in. Also, I want to thank everyone for having sent in a lot of questions. We have such an overload here that there is no way we'll get through them today, so my promise is I keep them on my list and try in subsequent webinars to address them. So that's a sneaky way of getting everyone to keep tuning in so you can hear your question in case you didn't hear it today. That's my evil plan, but no, really. Thank you, everyone. There would be no community and no webinar here if all of you were not interested in what Danny has to say and participating in all of this. So we thank you again. And before we start, well, let me give you an introduction here, Danny. New people do join in as these webinars get shared over the past 2 years out on the web. Attorney Daniel Sheehan is, I think, in my humble opinion, the preeminent social justice and people's justice lawyer of the last American century, and this one too. He has litigated such famous cases that as the Watergate break-in, the Pentagon Papers, the Karen Silkwood murder, 3 Mile Island, the Iran-Contra scandal, and many more. So that, you know, when he is out there now, as he is in Standing Rock with his team, that he and the team are a formidable opponent to all those undo-gooders out there who would want to do bad things to us in our society. So for that, we thank Danny for his many years of service, and it's a service that's continuing right now. We're very lucky that for 2 years he has been joining us and making the time to be able to take questions from our community on cosmic humanity, ET contact issues, as well as political issues that surround and really sometimes are behind the ET cover-up. It's often the same set of characters who create political and social messes as who do the cover-up and keep the disclosure from happening that we all keep talking about in our community. So having said all that, I will give you, Danny, one comment from one of our viewers who says, Danny here, I just wanted to say thank you for your mission to bring truth to the front and make others absorb the truth. Kind regards. Danny, if you have a secret for making people absorb the truth, I will pay for that. Let me know. But I do know that the way you talk and back up what you say is compelling and lets people, figure out that, the truth lies there. So having said all that, let's start, and I'll let you begin with your latest update from Standing Rock.
Well, we're here at Saturday, the 13th of January. The judge who has been appointed to try the case that we're doing up here, the case for Chase Iron Eyes, the man who is the 2016 nominee for the National Democratic Party for the single seat in the House of Representatives, who is the only person charged with having incited the alleged riot here, the uprising against the Dakota Access Pipeline. The judge who's been assigned to try his case, to come up out of retirement to try his case, is a very widely respected judge here in North Dakota, a very fair-minded judge, Judge David Nelson from Williston, North Dakota. And he has, as we'd mentioned in the earlier discussion, has agreed to allow us as the defense counsel to have access to discovery against the Energy Transfer Partners Corporation and the Tiger Swan Private Military Corporation, whom they hired to, quote, provide security for the pipeline. And so we are in the process now. He just came on duty officially on January 1st and just arrived here in Bismarck on January 11th, just 2 days ago. And so we have submitted to him a report, a status report on the discovery process, pointing out that the state attorney's office in Bismarck, the prosecutors against Chase Iron Eyes, and his co-defendants, there are some 74 people who were all arrested on February 1st of 2017 at the last child camp immediately adjacent to the terminal point of the Dakota Access Pipeline, where it was they were drilling this under Lake Oahe, which is the sole source of fresh drinking water for the entire Great Sioux Nation, which is 82% Native American people in this community. The judge has said that we in fact have a right to find out a series of things that other cases have not yet dealt with. There, as I pointed out to you earlier, there were some 843 people arrested during the period between September of 2016, when the Tiger Swan military security people came on board, and all the way into May of 2017. In that period where the highly militarized activity of the Tiger Swan Military Corporation was active, there were 834 people arrested. 74, basically 75 of them were arrested on February 1st, and we are defending the person who has been charged with allegedly inciting that particular incident where these people were all arrested for setting up a spiritual ceremony on the top of a particular hill that was there overlooking the site where the Dakota Access Pipeline was being drilled. So the Judge Nelson has said that we have a right to look into a series of assertions that we have made in the defense. We have asserted that the Dakota Access Pipeline Corporation and the Energy Transfer Partners made a decision to move the original pipeline route, which had been generated by an objective set of criteria in a computer, to run 10 miles north of the 92% white Bismarck, North Dakota community. They made a decision, the corporate executives made a decision to move that route of the pipeline down directly under Lake Oahe, in 1/2 mile north of the boundary of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. And that's, we have argued that there is direct evidence indicating that this was done for racial reasons, that they believed that they could get away with moving the pipeline down here rather than putting it up by the white community, because the white community had raised objections to it and said that it would endanger their water supply. And so the danger to the water supply was transferred from there down to the Native American people. And we have asserted that that violates the Federal Civil Rights Act, which prohibits the racially discriminatory placing of these types of potentially dangerous infrastructures in minority communities. So we are insisting upon getting information detailing the decision made to move that pipeline route and the racial history of the corporation in doing things like that. We've also asserted that the hiring of the Tiger Swan private military corporation as the security people for the pipeline was in fact motivated by the fact that the company knew that the Tiger Swan private military corporation was trained to be biased against tribal people. They had been employed in the Middle East to suppress the resistance of the indigenous tribes in the Middle East to the seizing of their oil fields by the United States government under George Bush Sr. In that whole history of the war in the Middle East over the occupations of the Middle Eastern oil fields. These are the men who are veterans of that military training and deployment, first in the United States military and then through Blackwater International, the big infamous private military corporation, the first major such corporation. The founder of the Tiger Swan military corporation that was active here when Jim Reese was the director of anti-terrorism activities for Blackwater International worldwide, so that type of bias that they come with, that kind of training to designate people who oppose their pipelines and their oil production as terrorists infected the entire operation here. And we've asserted that that Tiger Swan went on to target the Native American people, the people of the Seven Council Fires here, as anti-Christian, anti-capitalist, racially identified and religiously motivated jihadist terrorists, and then dealt with them accordingly by depriving them of the equal protection of the law as terrorists, but in effect as Native people, as distinct from actual terrorists. They were using both racial and religious qualities to profile the people here. So we've demanded discovery of this. Now, this is probably a lot more information than people might need, but I just want to make sure that everybody knows exactly what's going on here. So that's what we're engaged in doing, is extracting that type of discovery information now from them. And they are, of course, resisting, and the state attorney is resisting, the prosecutor. And so we're getting Judge Nelson to intervene to order them to comply with our discovery demands. So that's where we are right now. Our trial is scheduled for July 23rd, and our discovery is running from January 1st through to May 1st. In light of their resistance, we may have to extend that period a bit to give us the kind of adequate time the court had approved earlier for actually going through the discovery. They're refusing to give it to us. And so as long as they refuse to give it to us, one might argue that the period ought to be extended during which we can prepare the trial. But that's what's happening right now. And of the 843 people that have been charged, over 500 of them have already been acquitted, or their cases have been dismissed by various judges. There's just a tiny handful of people that have been convicted of various minor misdemeanors, such as, disorderly conduct and refusing to obey a command of an officer during a civil disturbance. There's a handful of people that have been convicted in, there are videotapes of some of them, for example, conceivably, tossing a tear gas canister that was thrown at them by the police, tossing it back toward the police. If they have them on videotape, then they may get may have gotten convicted of that. But there's just a tiny handful out of them, of the over 500 people, well, actually 600 people now that have been acquitted or the case is dismissed against them. Yet the prosecutor keeps on coming, keeps on prosecuting people no matter how often they lose these things. They uniformly lose these cases. But they keep on doing it because they're under the whip hand of Tiger Swan, the military corporation, insisting that the template is to prosecute these people to the fullest extent of the law, even though they know they're going to lose, in order to try to punish the people. So that's what's going on right now. So we're preparing for the hearing with Judge Nelson. We've briefed our point and provided to him ample evidence showing that the Tiger Swan private military corporation people were intimately intermingled with law enforcement. And so the state prosecutor has the obligation to extract information from them as the prosecutor to provide to us, just like he would be required to provide information about the names of the law enforcement officers that were involved in these arrests. So we're trying to get through a first phase of making sure that the state prosecutor gives us all the information he's required as a matter of law to give us. And then we wade into them and start extracting additional information that we believe they need to give us. So that's where we are. That's the sort of update. It was 17 degrees below zero yesterday, and it's 11 degrees below zero today. And most of our staff is at the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation Tribal Building, presenting a program on the alternative energy sources that may be available to the people of the Great Sioux Nation here, solar power and wind power, that we're going to hopefully be providing some legal assistance to them to make certain that whatever companies come in to build the wind generators and solar power generators, do not in fact get an unfair advantage over the people, so that those facilities would be owned by the Great Sioux Nation, the Lakota people, and not by some private white-owned operation. But the people who build the facilities and help train the people to run them could get some small recompense for the work that they do. But in light of the historical abuse of these people, we would insist that be some minimal amount that would repay those companies for the work they've done with a reasonable return, but not that they have any kind of permanent ownership of the facilities or any kind of perpetual access to some percentage of the income generated by the generation of electricity. The Standing Rock Sioux Reservation, the Cheyenne River Sioux Reservation, the Rosebud Reservation, and the Pine Ridge Reservation have the number one wind currents in the entire of North America for potential wind-generated energy. And that has not been realized. And so the process of discussing whether they wanted to develop this resource and to earn income from this resource, as well as, of course, provide themselves with free electricity, is underway right now. In our office has been asked, Chase Iron Eyes, our defendant, who is the chief legal counsel for the Lakota People's Law Office, which we have established here up in the Dakotas, has been asked by the Standing Rock Sioux tribe to open an office assisting the tribe in these negotiations and the treaty obligations, as well as the civil rights and human rights protection. So that's what's going on up here. That's just sort of the latest thing that we are involved in out of our office. But as you know, the Romero Institute, which is the 501c3 public interest organization that we run, that has established the Lakota People's Law Office, also has the major project of the Green Power Project, which we talked about it in the past, has persuaded with others the 3 counties around Santa Cruz and Monterey, California, in Central California, to establish their own community-owned, all sustainable clean energy for electricity, and has replaced Pacific Gas and Electric as the provider of electric services for people there. And we're expanding that down into San Diego now and other parts of California. And we're preparing to open, they keep on telling me to stop doing this when I'm with you guys and laying out all the details of our plans and everything, but it's more than you may be interested in. And we're also engaged in that particular activity. So there's a positive solution to the problem of global climate change by actively bringing down the actual carbon emissions by providing solar power and wind power that is owned by the community, such as the Native community here and the counties and the communities down in Central California, as well as a defensive posture against the oil corporations and their military, private military corporations that are trying to crush public opposition to the putting in of pipelines that are threatening the clean water, drinking water sources of people around the country. So that's our update from the Great Northwest for today, Saturday, January 13th.